Right, okay guys, so today we are at the Hobby Lodge. This is Martin, if you don't already know. I will link his channel down below, so if you haven't checked him out, go over and check him out. So today we're going to be doing a room tour of your Hobby Lodge.
Great.
So Martin's going to talk us through everything from the tabletop side of things to the retro gaming stuff as well. So, and there's a lot of information on the tabletop stuff and also 3D printing. So yeah, anything you'd like to
add? Yeah, I mean, you're very welcome to come look around. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Yes, there's lots in here, not just retro video gaming, but miniatures. You know about that, about my channel, 3D printing, memorabilia, all sorts of stuff. So I hope you sit back and enjoy. And if there's any questions, stick them in below, and I will absolutely jump on to the Nerdy Geezers channel and answer those questions if you got them. But yeah, hope you enjoy it. Have a look around. So this is the nerve centre of the Hobby Lodge, where I spend every day either working or playing games, editing videos, doing whatever I want to do in the hobby that requires me to be sat in front of the PC. It's made up of a bunch of stuff. Everything in the room could be streamed to this area for capturing for things like Twitch or YouTube, as you've seen on the channel. But it's essentially made up of the laptop, which is a high-end gaming laptop for running modern-day PC games on. Think of your Halo and such and things like that. The PC, which is the two screens here, for that editing, for that work, for that job I do every day. And then a nice little sort of picture frame TV at the top there, which I can also stream to if I want to, if there's things that need sort of older type connections.
Oh, you can stream to it as well?
Yeah, I can, yeah. So there's also a Chromecast. So every TV in here also has a Chromecast attached. If you don't know what a Chromecast is, it's essentially a way to wirelessly stream content to a device. So anything you can view in a browser, a YouTube video, you can fire to any of the screens in this room to watch and consume, or to do whatever you want to do with. There's also things like the Retron 5 down here. The Retron 5 is a great little device for you to put your games cartridges in, saving me having to get out one of the other older consoles. Of course, you know, hit and miss sometimes on the emulation that it does, but it is handy to be able to have it and stream it easily. Yep. Also have a Retro Pi here as well. That's how I've been doing things like the Master System Challenge, because I don't yet have a Master System, but a really great device to hook up really quickly and play like games. The switches over here, I have the Stream Deck device for easily switching around and transitioning during live streams or recording. I find that really easy. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that's over on this table here. Yeah. Any questions?
No, I think you pretty much covered all that.
Something else I'm able to do on here is, you may have seen, there's also a MacBook attached to the wall, and there's also my Windows XP PC, which I did a video on a little while ago, for running those kind of Windows era games. And of course I want to be able to access to that all through the same machine. I don't want to keep plugging things in and out. So again, using capture cards, my PC has multiple in it. I'm able to run that through and do it all through the singular screen. I also have a keyboard and mouse that's able to operate multiple devices. So through a press of a button on the keyboard, I'm able to change from Windows to Mac to Windows XP. And the same with the mouse. The mouse has a button here which allows you to switch from multiple devices. So for instance, I'm on the Windows machine here now. I press number 2 on here and I'm now actually operating the Mac. So very seamlessly quick to be able to change between the two. And again, being able to capture it is really important. And I don't know enough about playing with Mac editing yet. So that's something I want to get into this year is, you know, people out there able to do really cool things with their videos through Macs, and I'd like to be able to do that. So yeah, multiple systems all through one screen.
Impressive. I've got to admit, it's very impressive.
So this is where I do the majority of the miniature hobby painting. Obviously, it's a painting desk. You can see here a plethora of paints of all different types. I really like a thing called the Games Workshop Contrast Paint. It's a really easy paint system that I like to use to get the results that I get. It's set up for streaming again, so I have cameras in various places so that I'm able to be on the camera but also show you what I'm painting below. A thing that I like to use is old phones. So I think old phones have cracking cameras in them. A lot of people have them stuck in their drawers, and there's really easy software out there to turn those cameras into, those phones into really good cameras, especially for close-up work, because they tend to have really good lenses in them. So when I'm working on a miniature down here, this old Samsung S8, I believe, is sort of focused in on this area, so you can see what I'm painting. It has a great pinch and zoom functions in it, the kind of things that in a DSLR camera would cost you quite a bit of money. You can normally get this for very cheap through second-hand phones, and we've all probably got second-hand phones laying around. I use an old Microsoft Surface here for just managing the stream that I'm doing, or looking at stuff in the Discord as it comes up, or the chat that's on YouTube. And as you can see, yeah, pretty good setup for all the painting needs that I have.
I did wonder how you did that with a phone, because I mean, when I've seen what you're doing with that, it's like an old phone and you're doing that. That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have something similar to that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I've used webcams before, and webcams are great, but they seem to struggle with the really close up. And of course, when you're painting something miniature, that close up is really important. You know, most webcams or cameras are meant for this kind of distance.
Yeah.
Once you get up close, they seem to struggle. So yeah, mobile phone cameras are really useful for that. So I definitely recommend it. Piece of software is called IV Cam. I know there's many out there that do a similar job, and it works great for me. And I have multiple, so I can use this camera here, one on the table, elsewhere, and the PC can pick up multiple devices, so you can have 2, 3, 4 cameras running at once if you've got that many phones. Nice. So this is the display cabinet. So this is the fruits of the labour that after all the streams are done, after the videos are done and the miniatures are finished, I put them in the cabinet for display, and then we obviously get them out when we play games. So this is just a small selection, because frankly, like all of us in these kind of hobbies, space is a premium. So this cabinet is getting fuller and fuller, to the point now where I'm kind of squeezing it in, and even stuff that doesn't make the grade doesn't make it into the cabinet. So as you can see, there's stuff on top, stuff within, of every type of miniature game that's out there, from fantasy to futuristic to even historical in there. So yeah, lots and lots of miniatures. I tend to paint about 200 miniatures a year. So I've been doing this hobby from about 2015. So therefore you can kind of, do a bit of math on how many miniatures I've painted. And there's still lots that haven't been, because sadly you've probably got this in shot, boxes of unpainted miniatures and projects that I will get to in the future. But like all hobbies, we're all a little bit hoarders inside of us, and yeah, I've certainly have my fair share.
The ones I like the most are the Star Wars ones. I think they're really good.
Yeah,
I love them.
Yeah, but yeah, the Necrons up here, your classic kind of almost like Terminators. These are really cool. These are nice and easy to paint as well, mostly silver, so you can get away with lots of mistakes. But yeah, lots and lots of miniatures, loads of storage as well. So of course, when you're playing these games, one of the things you want to do is have an impressive table of terrain, and of course that all takes up loads of space. So each one of these drawers has things like trees inside of it, and buildings, and there you go, for Star Wars, actual Star Wars buildings, all 3D printed, so you can make a very impressive Tatooine table, for instance. Nice. And it just goes on and on. Again, fantasy, futuristics, Wild West, historical, war-based. I have an entire Normandy table in there. I have an entire Wild West table in there. I have an entire Star Wars table in there. And this goes on and on. Any type of game you want to play, I should be able to make you a pretty impressive looking table for it. But of course, it all takes space. So yeah, more unpainted future projects. Probably one of my biggest miniatures I've painted up here from Games Workshop, called Archeon. That was something I painted last year. It was a bit of a challenge to myself. But again, more board games, card games. As we go around, you can just see more storage, more boxes. Yeah, now we're getting into the retro area of the Hobby Lodge, and it's growing rapidly, and I'm very glad to see it do so.
I can see that, yeah.
This section here, and again, this is something I need to think about the future, right? If I go back to the beginning, this was originally set up for the other hobby, the miniature side of things. So a lot of the storage I've got is what I had at the time, so it's more bookshelf type stuff. So this is stuff that's going to change in the future, but I've got to make do with what I got for the moment. So as you can see here, I've got an old CRT with a VHS player in it, and this was primarily for light gun games. I really like light gun games on like the PS1, PS2, but of course that doesn't work with modern TVs. So I picked this up on Facebook Marketplace for a £5, so I thought that was pretty good.
£5?
£5, yeah.
You see how much they are these days?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think I found it within minutes of it going up, so I was pretty lucky, because by the time I went and picked it up, the guy said to me, he had many calls afterwards, all offering him more money.
Yeah.
But he kind of said, I'm a man of my word, I said I'd give it to you for a £5, and therefore he did. So yeah, bless him for doing that, because it's a great little TV.
Yeah.
And obviously having the VHS player in there, which means I can put on some classic movies like Big Trouble in Little China. Shout out to Sega Zombie there for giving me that when I went up to see his store. and you should all go and do the same.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to put some old VHS on there, but primarily it's meant for, you know, getting the light gun out and playing some Point Blank. Oh, I'm going to pull the side off. Some Point Blank and some other games on there.
Yeah, definitely don't break that. They're not cheap either.
No. And then sort of working our way around, I've got sort of the handheld section here. I 3D print on the 3D printers you're probably seeing these little stands. So, you know, these are all available on Thingiverse. They're normally sort of, you know, marked up as what console they're for. Super easy to print and make nice little sort of plinths for your different devices to go on. So you can see I've got one for the PSP there, so it can stand up nice. For the Game Boy Color, and so on and so forth. So this is a nice display area for the handhelds. PSP games, DS, Game Boy, Nintendo or NES, PS1. It's kind of all just kind of where I can fit things at the moment until I get a much better storage solution for this. And if anyone's got any great ideas for how to store these things, or I'm sure it's something from IKEA, leave us a comment or something to let me know, because I'd love to know what you've done for this.
I guarantee you'll get loads of comments saying Billy Bookcase. Yeah,
maybe. Just going across the top there, you can see some more handhelds. So the PS Vita, which previously was my favourite handheld, but it's been recently replaced by the PSP, purely because, one, there's a great library of games on the PSP, and I think it needs more love. But the video out on the later version of the PSP is superb, especially if you're into YouTube and into capturing video, being able to capture the PSP, because the PS Vita doesn't have any way of capturing it.
Yeah.
You've got to be looking at a PS TV, which I have one of those, but even then, it's a bit of jiggery pokery to get some of the games work. So yeah, I love the PS Vita, and of course it's next to my first handheld, which was the Game Gear. So
yeah.
Most people had a Game Boy when they were younger. I was one of the rare kids that had a Game Gear and felt special because my screen was colour and your screen.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the screen, but it was in colour.
Well, I had neither, so.
There you go. And I remember going through batteries like they were going out of fashion, finally getting the charger for it, getting the TV adapter and all the bits and pieces. But I absolutely love the Game Gear, so I may in the future get it modded, get it brought up to modern day with the screen, because going back to the Game Gear, it is very difficult to play on that screen. So yeah, that may be something I'll look at. Obviously, there's the Evercade handheld up there, which you know, behind that is most of the Evercade cartridges that have come out recently. I think I've got 1 through to 21, and then the new arcade ones for the VS. Sega Saturn, a new love in my life, 100%. Never owned a Sega Saturn when I was young. Didn't know anyone owned a Sega Saturn when I was young. I think most people just went to the Dreamcast. But my eyes have been opened. The Sega Saturn is an awesome machine. I absolutely love it. It has the truest version of Sega Rally, one of my loves from being a kid.
Definitely, yeah.
So being able to fire up Sega Rally, huge nostalgic moment for me, because as a child, outside of my school, there was a betting shop, and the only arcade machine they were allowed, and the only bit of the betting shop you were allowed in was where this arcade was, and it was Sega Rally. 2-seater Sega Rally. Every day we played it and got pretty good at it, actually. I suppose you would do. It's the only arcade machine you've got access to.
Yeah, true.
So next to that, we've got some carts. I am a cart-only collector for 2 reasons. 1 is cost, 2 is responsibility. I do not want the responsibility of making sure these pieces of cardboard last forever. I'd much rather give that to someone else more dedicated.
Yeah.
Like Essex Retro Gamer, I'd much rather he has that responsibility. So any boxes I get, I either give them to people, or I try not to collect boxes in the first place. And therefore, I just collect the cartridges. As you'll see, there's lots of cartridges around the room. Again, save space. So space, cost, and responsibility. But yeah, it does become difficult to even store just cartridges because they don't stack very well and things like that. So I do have protective covers on everything, so that, you know, hopefully more games. So this is where I've got sort of, well, a mixture of things really. So PS4, I actually own an awful lot of PS4 games digital. I know it's an absolute crime to say it, but before I was really into the retro, I was kind of okay with digital, you know, especially being a PC gamer from the day, right? we've all got huge Steam libraries. My Steam library has got over 900 games in it, right? So to me, it wasn't a new thing to be digital. But absolutely, the more and more I'm getting into this hobby, the more and more I'm getting that passion for it. And obviously seeing how all the other retro gamers have that passion for the physical, I've started to go back and pick up some of these games. Because the PS4 is super cheap to pick up games for.
Yeah.
If you want to own it, you can go out and get
Especially
it.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So I've gone back and sort of picked up the games that I really liked and enjoyed, and got them as physical editions. The Wii U, great console. We owned it from day one when it came out. We really enjoy it as a family, so I've made sure I've picked up some Wii U games. In fact, not all of them are here because actually the Wii U games are up at the house where my sons actually play them, and so does my wife and daughter. So yeah, this is just a collection that's down here. The PS3 is probably one of my favourite consoles of all time, especially now that I own a fat PS3. So the original backwards compatible PS3, because, I mean, man, what a console to get. PS3 library is amazing, right up to The Last of Us, probably one of the greatest games to come out on that system, and just an amazing game to play. The Red Dead Redemptions and all that. The PS3 library is amazing, and then the PS2, and then the PS1. So if I could only have one console in here, I'd probably pick up an original PS3.
Yeah.
You know, and wrap it in cotton wool so it didn't ever break.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a pretty good PS3 library there. Going down further, it goes into the Wii. That's great to have that as well. There's a great bunch of Wii games out there. But yes, I also picked up the gaming watches. These are nice kind of display pieces. Especially, I don't know if people know this, if you keep it on charge, it stays on all the time. So they act like little clocks. If you don't have it on charge, it will turn off. So something I have around the room you may notice is these magnetic attached powers. So everything in here, the controllers, the consoles, everything can be powered on and off really easily by using these leads. So I can have that on and have it as a nice little display piece with the clock on it. On the right hand side here, we have a bunch of classic consoles dotted around the place. We've got the PS1 one up there. We have some PS5 games. PS5 will get there hopefully one day, but to me at the moment it's just not. It's
trickling out, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you can pick up PS5 games quite cheap now. I've seen quite a few that are in that sort of £20 to £25 area on Amazon.
That's true.
Recently I picked up things like Tales of Arise, Mortal Kombat 11, Yakuza Like a Dragon, fairly modern games, fairly cheap on the PS5. So I've started to put some love into the PS5, and hopefully it will get there as a console in time.
I recommend with your kids Wreckfest. It's good fun.
Yes, I've seen the video on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Then GameCube. Loads of GameCube games here. Very expensive, obviously, to collect for the GameCube. Well, certainly some of them are. So yeah, if there's any you want to play, I would recommend getting them early. But things like Bloody Roar, absolutely think it's a brilliant game. I love that fighter being able to change from the person to the beast as you're fighting away. Really great game. Loads of good things in there, of course. Your Resident Evils, your Super Mario Sunshine, Soul Caliburs, and so on and so forth. So I don't own a huge amount of GameCube games, and I guess that's a point for the whole collection, really. I very much want to take that mantra of all killer, no filler, right?
Same, yeah. I only buy what I want to play.
Yeah. So even though I do charity shop pickups, something I am going to do this year is go through them, and I've got that series on my own channel where I'm doing killer no filler, playing some of these games that I randomly pick up in places, saying actually, if it's no good, let's move it on. If I move it on to someone who's collecting full editions of things, full collections, of which there's many out there, or get it onto someone like Gaming Grandad who's trying to do a good cause and raise some money, or just get it out of my collection, because again, it's space that I don't want to take up, and I really want this collection to be just hits after hit after hit. So when I come over and pick a game, I know I'm picking some great ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that section there, pretty much. Okay, so this is another section which for me is all about the SNES, right? That is the console I got as a child. I definitely had older machines, but the Super Nintendo was the one I opened on Christmas morning. So that's one I count as being my first console. It is something that I can go back to and remember ripping that box open, seeing the Super Mario World yellow box, and getting super excited. Quick story, I played it. My dad set up a TV much like this one, actually, the 14-inch you see there, in front of me in the living room, and I played Mario and Street Fighter for the entire day. It must have been 12
Nice.
plus hours. To the point where I was physically sick the next day. So this is the bad story is that
not so nice.
The eye strain, the whatever it drummed up inside of me. The next day I physically couldn't look at a screen. It made me feel ill to the point where I genuinely was actually sick. So whilst Christmas Day was really great, Boxing Day was not so much. I didn't play the Super Nintendo at all on Boxing Day, but you can believe me, I was straight back on it the day after for sure.
I've got a question though. Was it worth it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I knew that was the answer.
Amazing. So, and of course, the thing I can do now that I could never do back then is go and get all the games that I wanted, right? These were the times where you got a game lucky for your birthday and Christmas, because they weren't cheap even back then, right? So I'm loving going back and picking up games that I had, like Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania, the Mario All-Stars, obviously, the Street Fighter, all of those games. But then even finding games that I didn't even know about and going back and playing those. So the Super Aleste and stuff like that thanks to the the retro community, I'm finding out about for the first time. So it's a really enjoyable part of the hobby. And even with the Retron 5, I'm able to play the American ones as well. So sometimes when the UK cart is very, very expensive, you're able to find the NTC one for much cheaper. So things like I picked up... I think Maximum Carnage for half the cost of what it costs in the UK. Of course, I'd love to have the PAL cart, but what are you going to do? It's be silly to spend money when you don't need to. So really happy with this. I need to find a better way to show it off, because these carts are my absolute childhood memories.
Yeah.
But yeah, really happy with that. Up the top here, the consoles are all set up. So these are all powered. They're all connected, so you can play any one of them at any one time. I try and be smart, so I have consoles that play multiple devices. So for instance, the Wii also plays the GameCube, so I don't need to have a GameCube up here plugged in. The PS3, the fat version, PS1, PS2, PS3, so that's covered. The PS4, to be honest, could be replaced, because I now have a PS5 and I know that plays PS4 games. The Xbox 360 is up here just because it's a great console. Absolutely love the 360. It's probably the one that I've done the most multiplayer on. So when I play with friends, playing the Call of Duties, Call of Duty World at War being our favourite one, played all the time on Xbox. So
same. Yeah, it's a great console.
Yeah, further down, this is where the space starts to get a bit of a problem. So Xbox 360, we're getting to that point where it's double layered, so that's not good. And also with the PS2 down there as well, especially because I've kicked off this kind of new series around where Warhammer meets video gaming. So I've recently just got a whole new bunch of games and I need to find storage for them. Very lucky this TV, another charity shop pickup, was I think £10 for a TV out of the charity shop, and it's got a load of sort of old school connections on the back, so your SCART lead on the back and all the rest of it. So I'm able to cook up most devices there. If you're wondering what's on the screens, I don't know if people know this, but the mini console, so let's take the Mega Drive one for instance, I've got it right here. If you plug these in and then leave them alone, they go into like a demo mode. So it's really great for sort of behind the scenes sort of streaming and things like that. You want something on the screens. So this one here is the Nintendo, and it will just cycle through games. So you get a bit of footage on your screen. So it's kind of nice to have. So I plug these in every now and then, depending on what I'm feeling like. So today we've got Super Nintendo over here and we've got Nintendo over here. Just to have different stuff displayed on the TVs. It's always nice. Another game to watch. This is the recent Zelda one that came out. It's a really cool device. And I think that's it. Okay, we've got the signs. These are not originals. These are eBay's finest from China. But again, just a nice thing to have on the wall, a bit of colour. And of course the beast here, which is the PS5. We picked that up last year. We were very fortunate in how we got it. A friend, ordered too many, let's say, and I took one off of him for the same, the asking price. So really lucky to get it. Although I will say it needs love, it needs attention, it needs games, it needs releases.
Yeah, definitely.
I did buy a wall mounting bracket. Highly recommend this to anybody. You can get brackets for these to stick them on the wall because they are a beast of a machine. So if you're going to stick it on your side or on your shelf, prepare for it to take up some space. But this is securely attached to the wall, and it works really well actually as a wall attached device. And of course, there's the Marshmallow Man on top.
Ah, got to be done.
So this is the console wall. So I use these invisible shelves. It looks like all my consoles are currently floating around the TV. So this is the main TV. Again, I love to get a freebie. This was a classic when you renew your phone on a phone contract. They send you a TV. So I got
nice.
I got a free TV out of it. I wasn't going to say no. So the TV's up on the wall. I think it's only a 42-inch or whatever, but it's a 4K TV. It's fantastic. It works really great, as you would expect of a modern TV. It's got all the apps and all the business. And then around it, I've got these hidden shelves. So if I show you this one here, you can see it's just a white shelf attached to the wall, and it's nice to then just put your consoles on top to show them off. Easy to grab one. I have all the power leads down here, all ready to go, so I can quickly hook one up and put it on the TV. Obviously, in the future, maybe I'll come up with a solution so that they're all just turn on at a switch and off you go. But for me, you're talking, a couple of minutes to actually plug one in and get it up and running. Because sometimes I also take it over to the streaming desk and maybe plug it in over there as well. So I've got it all available within a couple of minutes to get the machine up and running. But mostly I'll try and use things like the Retron 5 or other things, so I'm not having to constantly plug these things in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a nice way of displaying them as well. So you've got the NES, that is actually an original, it's actually from my wife, it's her family NES, so her whole family shared that. And when they found out I was into retro gaming, her dad, or my father-in-law, went into the loft and dug it out, and it still worked.
Piece of history there.
It is,
yeah.
It is, absolutely. To the point where when I first got it from them, someone had been chewing on the old leads for the NES controllers and stuff like that. So I'm sure that was her younger brother in the days. So yeah, I had to sort of do some repair work. Let's put it that way to bring it back to life. The Super Nintendo sadly isn't my original. I wish it was, and I don't know what happened to my original one. Hey, haven't we all probably got terrible stories of our childhood where either our Star Wars toys went away, our consoles went away, or something we wish we had remained. But yes, Super Nintendo, love it. N64, the Evercade VS, don't know where I stand on that one yet. I'm not in love with it yet, and I'm hoping that more multiplayer games will make that sort of a great console. Over here we've got a Mega Drive. It's the Mark II. We have the Sega Saturn, as I said. Absolutely love the Sega Saturn, and the Dreamcast as well. Another great machine, actually. The Dreamcast is fantastic.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
It's weird how I've slowly over time maybe transitioned into more Sega. I don't know what's happening to me, because I was definitely a hardcore Nintendo boy, but Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, I can't deny they're awesome. So,
yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much this section. And this is the 3D printing area. So everything that goes on here is, again, to do with the miniature wargaming, but also used for the retro gaming as well, right? So this here is what's called an FDM printer. It prints on a filament. It essentially melts that filament and then prints lines to get what you want out. So for instance here, I've printed this Game Gear stand. So if I show you that there, you can see, nice it comes out. It's a great little stand, and it means when you get your Game Gear, you literally connect it to the bottom, and you've now got a stand for your Game Gear.
Yeah,
so when you want to display it on the shelves, and these things are all from, there's a website called Thingiverse, completely free, and you can get these things printed out.
Nice.
The next one up is a resin printer. So different type of technology. Rather than melting a filament and printing lines, it's actually curing liquid resin. So essentially, this build plate dips into the resin, a light will shine and dry a very small layer of resin on here, and then it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, until it's printed
like
something
that.
on a miniature.
Yeah.
So then when you get this off, you take it off, you put it into the washing station, which is this one here. That gets off any uncured resin. Obviously resin's a very toxic thing, so you don't want to mess around with it. Once you've cleaned it off, you can then paint it and prime it. So this is a dwarf head that I did a while ago.
And that was printed from that?
That was printed from that, yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah, it looks really good. But, of course, the painting looks really good too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that's the original colour of the resin there, the green.
Another thing? Looks like soy.
There we go. There we go. Maybe I can gift it to Ginger Hippie Gaming.
Yeah,
it can be his new. It can be his new logo.
Yeah.
But yes, again, FDM really good for bulky prints. Like for me, it's like terrain or these stands, or we've printed all sorts of things even for the house. You can print a new piece of pipework if you needed it for your plumbing. So really good at big bulky stuff, and then resin printer really good at quality and detail. So again, 3D printing miniatures, 3D printing little intricate parts that you might need for your hobby. Yeah, there you go.
And this wash station, is this like, does this vibrate or something like when you put the things in it?
Yeah, so essentially what you do is in the bottom of this is a big spinning fan. So again, it's magnetically attached.
Right.
So when you put this on top, you put your miniature inside, there's a little basket, you put it inside, it spins, washes the liquid around the whatever's in there and cleans off any uncured resin. And then you also can then take this off, and it's actually a UV light. So this here is all UV lights. You put a little turntable on here, and whatever's on here goes around the turntable, and the UV lights cure it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you didn't have this, you could still clean it by hand. You could wear gloves and do it, and you can put it in daylight. You could literally put the miniature or whatever it is you've printed outside, and the sun will cure it. This is just convenience. And this is my latest love. So I did a video on this a little while ago, and thanks to Retrobait, I now have a Commodore 64 in my life, which I'm extremely happy about. As you can see, it's on the table because I haven't yet decided where it's going to go or how I'm going to store it. But to be honest, at the moment, it hasn't left the table because I haven't stopped playing with it. Yeah, got this a couple of weeks ago. I've got it hooked up. This is proper nostalgia for me. I never opened this. This wasn't my machine back when I was a kid. But the amount of times I sat on the living room floor with my brother and my dad, and we'd fire these games up and play. And you know, my first time at learning things like BASIC and other things, and learning those initial computer commands. This is what got me in the career I'm in. I'm in technology. I knew I was always going to work in technology. I knew I was going to work in computing from that moment. So this means a lot to me because it's led to where I am today in the working world. And to have one physically here, of course you can emulate it, but I'm telling you now, there is nothing like hitting the eject button on the tape player, picking up these awesome tapes, be they new homebrews, which is a thing that I never knew about and I'm super happy exists, or original games from back in the day. So yeah, absolutely loving the C64. Cannot wait to do more of this and just get stuck into it. And the community out there, you know, it's been amazing and it's really supportive. So yeah, absolutely loving the C64. New addition to the Hobby Lodge.
And you know how much I like the C64.
And here on the table we've got a bit of a representation of the miniature wargaming that I talk about. So those people that don't know, it's essentially made up of teams of warriors that go to battle over an objective. Maybe that objective is kill each other. Maybe that objective is to take hold of a certain area. But essentially, whether it be a fantasy setting, historical, futuristic, you're essentially taking your side and trying to smash your opponent in some way. So lots of measuring of distances between you and your opponent. Can your gun hit? How hard does it hit? Has the person dodged? Have they got an ability that means that they're not going to take wounds? You're then going to throw dice at each other to say, right, I'm looking for sixes. Oh, I didn't get any, so I don't hit. Or, you know, whatever it might. Oh, actually, I've got a modifier with my armor penetrating bullets. That makes that 5 or 6. Great, I've shot you. And these are great. This is a great way to play out maybe some of those video games that we all love and enjoy, but in a really physical format. And this allows me to get my kids together, play some great games, maybe get some screen time away. You know, I know we don't want to do that. We all love being in front of our TVs playing our video games, but I do find the miniature wargaming a great way to have some epic battles on the table.
Right, what are we looking here then, Martin?
So, just up in the roof here, I've got two things. I've got another camera. So cameras all the way around the room, but this one is specifically pointing down at the table so that I can capture any action that's going on the table. So when we're playing big games or anything like that, I've got something that can give you that top-down view. But also there's a projector in the ceiling. And that projector, as you can see, has a Chromecast attached to it. And I use it for projecting maps onto the table. So for games like D&D, for instance, and Dungeons and Dragons, when you want to have a scenario on the table, people would normally put a TV or something in their tables. You'll see lots of videos on YouTube where people have built TVs into a table. Really expensive to do that. So this, I use that to just project down onto a piece of card, and hopefully you'll see some footage of that, so that you can then go, yeah, that now allows me to play games on a projected image, and that means that you've got a moving image. So rather than having a static map on the table or a placemat, you've got this kind of moving image with lakes and birds and whatever you want to have on there, and again, just makes it a bit more immersive.
Yeah.
This is something that's absolutely a treasured possession in the Hobby Lodge. It is my original copy of Hero Quest with the expansions. Everything's intact, including some quite rare, very difficult to find Hero Quest books, which you read along and then take part of some of the adventures on the actual game. So really, really good, and actually very difficult to find and get these books. I'd love to know if someone knows a great way of protecting these books. They do protectors for hardback books, but not so much for paperback. But these are now coming on for 30 plus years old, and you know, I want to keep them for a long, long time. So the other thing about my Hero Quest is it's fully painted. So last couple of years I took every single miniature in both the expansions and the core box, painted them all up to a nice tabletop condition, so you're no longer just playing with red or white miniatures that were in the game classically. It's all done out nicely, and yeah, this is something to keep an eye out for. So if you see this whilst you're out there hunting for things, people do sell this sillily for a couple of pounds in boot fairs and charity shops, and just the core box itself, if it's complete, is easily a £200 game. These are easily 100 and 150 pound expansions. These books are in some cases £60, £80 for the book. So yeah,
for one.
Yeah, for one book.
So £60 for one book, 150 for one expansion.
Yeah.
And 200 for Hero Quest.
Yeah.
Christ.
It's a very, very sought after. They have actually just re-released a new version of this. So there is a brand new Hero Quest game out. I will say that I'm not a fan. It looks like a shallow sort of, you know, comparison to the old original. So
cheaply made, yeah.
Yeah, it looks modern. It looks like modern He-Man, all those sorts of things. It
right.
looks like someone who's very good at drawing has done it. But for me, you can't beat the classic artwork on this game. You can't beat the classic components of it. It is a bit of history, and you know, for me, this is what kick-started all of that hobby stuff without me even knowing it. I used to play this as a kid by myself sometimes, you know, literally just running the miniatures around, having battles, long before I even knew that I'd be massively into the miniatures hobby. A bit like the C64, right? There was another piece that's absolutely iconic in my room now. It's kick-started everything I'm now doing in both technology as a career and also the hobby in computing. Right, the other thing I've got, which not many people would have seen or know about, obviously very topical at the moment with Blizzard being in the news, being purchased by Microsoft, but this is the Blizzard Orc statue that's outside the Blizzard's offices. This was only sent to people that had a long tenure in the World of Warcraft, the video game. So I played World of Warcraft for now coming up to, I want to say 18 years. I think it came out in 2004 and I'm still playing it today. So 18 years ago this video game came out. And for those people that had a 10-year tenure in the game, had never left the game for 10 years, had an ongoing subscription, ongoing play, they sent these statues out. You can see it is marked below as being for that very reason, the 10-year anniversary. But yeah, so this is very hard to get hold of. In fact, you could only get hold of it if they sent it to you. You couldn't buy it online or anything like that. But it's a very cool thing to have as a memory to playing those games and spending a lot of time in the World of Warcraft.
It's impressive. I like that.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
nice.
It's a really nice thing. It's a cool thing that will last a long time. So yeah.